Continuing on with the easy to make, easy to record tier list, we finally get to high rank with Juratodus. And now I'm gonna get crucified because Juratodus can get into the S tier. Again, a silly monster. I like him. It's this fish-like monster. He has some silly butt shake attacks that I like, and there is two main things going on. First, he has a mud armor. So again, you hit the monster, and you will eventually break the armor, and then you can hit his flesh, dealing more damage. So as I said, I like that. I like monsters that offer a way of countering them by itself, without having to have like extra external things going on, like external skills or endemic lives or whatever. So I like him because of that, and I also like that we can fight him outside of the water. And I like that because it gives this idea of fighting the monster where we can outbest him. So when we are fighting him on a water or mud like place, he will have a bunch of attacks, and the most powerful ones will also occur in that situation. But you can bait this guy into fighting on the ground, right? Outside of water, outside of mud. You can just go to a solid surface and fight him there. And then that's like a game changer. Because now the monster does not have access to his most powerful attacks, right? Now, now it's like the place where you can best fight him. You won't get like slowed down because of the mud. There will be no one-hit kill attack, like when he gets beneath the water and then just raises from it, attacking you from below. So this won't happen. So yeah, the monster just does not get access to his most powerful attacks, and you will not get penalized by other of his common attacks. Like as I said, he can throw mud around, and the mud will slow you down. But when you get to the solid surface, that does not happen anymore. So I like him, and it's also silly. A silly guy. Playing with lance and gun lance against him can be kind of painful, because he gets buried onto the ground when you are on the water or mud. So hitting him can be quite hard. Like Lance's most powerful basic attack, it's a thrust, a diagonal thrust. So depending on your distance, your thrust will just go above the monster. You'll also have a forward thrust, but it does not give enough damage like the one on the diagonal. So yeah, can be a little bit painful, but still manageable. Rachna, you can get into the A tier. This is a spider-like monster, and it's just a punching bag. That's all. Every place you hit is a weak spot. So I do have a lot of fun fighting her when I'm using the great sword, because the great sword has a, how's it called? I think it's surge slash combo, which you get access to like some spinning attacks that hit multiple times. So depending on your position, you can spin around and your sword will hit the monster 2 times. And since Rakina is a punching bag, everything's a weak spot, so you don't have to aim that much. Also, there is the web attacks that will kind of trap you into place, but again, there is counters to it. You can just move your directionals and press buttons until your character gets frees himself from the web. But you also have buddies. You have the Palicos and Palamuts that can free you from the web. And if you're playing multiplayer, you can hit your friends, which is great. I like that. I like doing that. So if you're a multiplayer and your friend gets stuck into web, you can just run towards him and hit him with your weapon, which will free him from the web. And that's always funny to do, especially with lance and gun lance. Oh, and also hammer. But I need to train that better. So on lance, you have the dashing attack that I talked when I was talking about Volvido. Your character will raise the shield and run forward, which is always funny to do with the other people playing with you. And with gun lance, you can use the Wyvern Fire, which is this really powerful attack that will explode the tip of the gun lance, and you can use that to free your friends from the web, which is always funny to do. And with hammer, there is an attack where you will swing the hammer and you will launch the other player into the air, freeing him from the web, of course. But that's like, that's just a side effect. The main goal is to hit the friends and make them go into the air. It's it's always funny to play with someone playing hammer in this game because of that, and also gun lance. Um, Pyre Rakna Kadaki. I believe it's the only variant that I don't really hate. It's the same as Rakina, but now it has access to some fire attacks. So instead of just shooting webs, it will also shoot fire. So I like him. Her, I like her. You can get into the A tier for now. Then we have Goku. Goku can get into the C tier. I don't know. I just feel like it's a standard monkey. There is not that much special things about it. It has the laser beam, kind of laser beam attack. Well, a thunder beam attack, where he will shoot a thunder beam from the mouth. And there is an interesting aspect of it, which is while playing Lance, again you can use that attack where your character will raise the shield and run forward. And I think that's the only thing of Goku that I like. He will do this attack, this Thunder Beam attack, and you can just counter with this other attack, and you can just run the entire length of the Thunder Beam and then hit him in the face with the shield. Which is kinda nice to do, but that's all. And then we have Furious Goku, which again, it's a variant, can get into the F tier. Not that much special things about it, and I believe it's the same case as Bishoten and Blood Orange Bishoten, which they removed a core aspect of the base monster. So Goku, he can get furious during some moments, and then he will get faster and use more powerful attacks. And there is two ways of dealing with him when he gets into that state. You can just wait, and then he will just get tired and get out of the furious state, or you can hit its tail. By hitting its tail, you will knock him out of the furious stage. But then we have Furious Goku. So all of that was Goku, right? How Goku works. Now we have Furious Goku. And Furious Goku is always on the Furious stage. And I don't like that because it feels like they removed a core aspect of the monster. They removed something that made that monster more unique, you know? And now it's just like he's always in that state and there is nothing to do. So I don't like him because of that. I do like him because he made me switch from Charge Blade to Lance. I was able to defeat him with Charge Blade, but it was not consistent. When I first encountered this monster, sometimes I would triple card and sometimes I would manage to defeat him. But as I said, was not consistent. So I switched to Lance because of that. I was trying to find a safer weapon, and I saw that Lance could provide that for me because it was a weapon that could easily block. Like it was not like the gun lance. The gun lance is faster for you to dodge than to block, and the same kinda happens with the charge blade. During some combos, it will be faster for you to evade than to block. And the lance is the opposite. With lance, blocking is way faster, so it's safer. And because of that, because of this monster, I find my main weapon. Well, my main weapon for quite some time before I switched to the gun lance. But yeah, when we got to Furious Rajang, up to the ending of the game, I only played Lance, I believe. But yeah, going back to the high rank monsters, we have Ibushi, we can get to the B tier, we get Narua and All Mother Narua. They are the main enemies of Monster Hunter Rise, the base game, which are these kind of elder dragons, kind of like Chinese dragons, like. And I don't know, I feel like again I could have enjoyed those monsters more if they had made a better job explaining the story. Because the idea is that Ibushi and Narua are very horny and they need to make babies. But by being in that state, they make all the monsters go insane. And that's what causes their rampage, not Magna Malu as we previously thought. And that's the story of these monsters, right? But I don't know, I just feel like they don't make a good job at explaining it. It's just like 3 cutscenes and it's over. Like 3 cutscenes in total, like the monster first appearing, and then must be 1 cutscene in the middle of it, and then the ending cutscene when we defeat these 3 monsters, Ibushi, Narua, and the All Mother. But yeah, I feel like if they had made a better job at explaining those, I would have, I would enjoy more of this. But still solid monsters. Basilgis, you can get into the A tier. It's another punching bag, but this time it has bombs attached to it. Again, a very hard monster that made me cart a lot. Um, he is this European dragon-like monster, and people call him B-52 because of the bomber. Because he has these elements in his neck and tail that he can throw, and they, after some time, they explode. So that's why people call him the bomber, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I don't feel like there is much to say about it besides that I'd had a lot of trouble fighting this monster. Sifting Basilgis, you can get into the the F tier because again it's just a variant, and I don't feel like it adds much to the game. And then we get to the Elder Dragons. So Camilius can get into the D tier, Kushala gets to F, and Teostra gets to D tier. I don't like those. Mostly because there is no story behind them. Right, oh, I forgot about Valstrax. Valstrax can get into the E tier. The way these monsters get presented to us, it's not. There is not much weight into it, right? It's just like, oh, you reach this level. I don't remember which level is, so let's say it's level 10. So you reach level 10 and you unlock Camilius. And then it's just like a character talks to you outside of a cutscene. So it's just like a dialogue line. There is no cutscene to it. And the character just says, hey, we have a problem with a Camilius. We need you to defeat because it's an elder dragon. It has like a really big destruction power, so we need you to keep them in check. And then you fight Camilius and you come back from the quest, and again a character speaks to you outside of a cutscene, and he just says, oh, thank you for defeating Camilius, now your maximum level is, I don't know, 15. And then you get to 15, and you unlock Kushala. So a character comes to you and say, hey, there is another Elder Dragon, you need to deal with it because it has a big destruction power, and yada yada. And then you defeat Kushala, come back, and he say, hey, congratulations, you defeated Kushala, now your maximum level is 20. And this happens to all these monsters. Camilius, Teostra, Kushala, and Valstrax. And I don't know, it just does not give the idea of these monsters being really powerful, you know. And as I was saying, I don't even feel like the main monsters of the game, which is like Ibushi, Naru, and the Almother, I don't think they managed to pass the idea of urgency to those monsters, which are the bosses of the story. And for these 4 Elder Dragons is even worse, because there is not even a cutscene, right? The characters are speaking to you through dialogue lines. So yeah, I don't like them because of that. All could be on the E tier, but Camilius and Teostra, I still think they give an interesting enough fight for me to not care that much about the lack of story behind those monsters. So they can get into one tier above. So Camellius, he can turn invisible, which is nice. You can cut its tail, you can break its nose, and it can steal some items from you, which again I like. I find it to be interesting, and it's only Camillus and Azurus that does that. I think. At least that's the only ones I remember. So he can get into the D tier. And Teostra is just. He's not really a punching bag, but if you're fighting with Lance, there is a setup that I like to do, which is using Lance with the Guard Bash Jill. So the Guard Bash Jill will make so when the monsters hit your shield, they get knockout damage. Or like tiring damage. It will depend on the body part, but the idea is monster hits the shield and part of the damage is sent back to the monster. If you hit its body, you make him get tired, and if you hit his head, you knock him out. And the way of cheesing the Oster's fight is like that. You get the lance and you put the guard bash jewel, because the Ostra has a bunch of attacks that you can use against him. So he will breath fire. So you can just stay in front of his face, raise your shield, and wait. He will breath fire, that will hit your shield, and then the damage will be sent back to him as KO damage. And you apply enough KO damage, the monster falls on the ground. And there is another attack where he will summon some fireballs. And it's 3 of them. One in front of his face and 2 others to the sides of it. And you can position yourself between 2 of them. So he will summon these fireballs, and after a couple seconds they will explode. So by staying in between 2 of them, you can apply KO damage 2 times, because both of them will explode, hit your shield, and then you will hit. The damage will be sent back to the monster 2 times. So you can cheese the fight. And I really like that. I find it to be funny. Then we have the apexes, which can get into the E tier. The idea of the apexes is interesting, because, well, the story is that we had the rampages, the hordes of monsters, and we believed Magna Malu was behind it. So we go after Magna Malu, we fight him, and we defeat him. But it turns out that the rampages did not stop, because now we have apexes monsters that took control of the hordes of monsters. So the rampages continues. That's the idea of the apexes. And then we figure out that actually the rampages were caused by Ibushi and Narua. But in the meantime, we have to deal with the apexes. And the story is kinda interesting. The execution, I don't know. I believe most of my problem with the apexes is the fact that we cannot trap them. And I really like trapping and capturing the monsters, because the game gives you this option. You can either kill the monster, or you can hit him enough until it gets weak, and then you can capture it. And I really like capturing because it changes the pace of the fight. Like if you wanna kill the monster, you will hit the monster will get weak, and then you just keep hitting the monster. There is no change, right? But if you want to capture it, You will hit the monster until it gets weak, and then when it gets weak, you have to throw poop at the monster to make it leave to another area, and then you lay a trap and capture it. Well, you lay a trap, you bait the monster into going into the trap, and then you throw the tranquilizers. So there is like a change in the pace of the fight. And that's like the reason why I like capturing them. But with the apexes, that's not an option. And yeah, I don't like them, mostly because of that. The other dragons is another type of monsters that you can't capture, but at least there is like a lore behind it, which is they are too dangerous to be captured. Um, well, you could say the same about the apexes, but still, I don't know. I just, I just gave an argument against myself. Great. But yeah, that's the ending of Monster Hunter Rise. The high rank, at least. So now we have the master rank, which is where the story really gets better. We have more cutscenes, and the story gets a little bit deeper. But yeah, I already talked about this story on the previous video, so here is just the monsters. We start that with another monster that I forgot the name of, but he can get into the city and the other guy too. Um, Ermital. Ermital and Shogun. Those are crab-like monsters. And well, let me talk about Hermital first. He is a crab monster, and he will shoot a water jet from its mouth. So that's his thing. And he also has a shell that you can break. And as I said, breakable parts are really nice. I like those. And then we have Shogun. Shogun is again a crab, and it can cause bleeding, but it also can shoot a water jet, and it has a shell you can break. Actually, I'm moving those to the B tier because I was thinking of something else. Well, I'll get to there. Um, they kind of drag each other down for being like both crabs, and I enjoy Shogun more than Hermital because Shogun has a gimmick on the water jet, while Hermital will shoot the water jet from the mouth. Um, Shogun will shoot the water jet from what I. Well, he will shoot a water jet from a thing that is beneath the shell. So, both of these monsters you can break the shell, which is a hard spot, to expose a weak spot, which is I hope it's not a cock, but it looks like a cock. Um, it's this weird shaped body part um, that is really weak. So the idea is you hit the hard spot enough, you break it, and you expose the weak spot, and then you keep hitting the weak spot to give extra damage. And on Shogun, he will shoot the water jet from that body part, um, the cock-like body part. And I find that interesting because uh, Shogun will have two shells. He has one shell that is completely covered, and so he cannot shoot the water jet, And he also has a shell that has a hole through which he can shoot the water jet. And I like it because it adds on its strategy element. So let's say you started the quest and he has the completely covered shell. Now you have two options. You can ignore the shell and hit other body parts, or you can go for the shell and break the shell, which will expose the weak spot. But then there is a chance that the next time he gets a shell, because when you break the shell, after some time he will dig into the ground and get another shell. So you can break the first shell, the completely covered one, to expose the weak spot, but then there will be a chance of him getting a shell that has a hole through which he can shoot the water jet. So it kind of adds this strategy element to the fight. Like, okay, I can just play safe and hit whatever else body part that I want to hit, and leave like the shell, the covered shell intact, or I could risk it and I could break the shell to expose the weak spot, but then I would be gambling with the monster, because the next time he gets a shell, it could be either the covered one, so he cannot shoot the water jet again, but he could also get the shell that has a hole on it, so he can shoot the water jet. So I like him because of that. And Hermitar, even though I like the monster, it does not have this element to it. And that's why I like Shogun more. But again, they kind of drag each other down for being like too similar to each other. Moving on, we have Astalus, which can get into the D tier. Is this European-like dragon. He controls thunder, and I just don't like him. I don't know why. Maybe because he's too fast. Maybe because of the some of the attacks that has a really wide range. I don't know. I just don't like him. So he can get into the D tier. What's the name of this guy again? It's not, well, how they call it? Steve. Steve, I don't know, he can get into the B tier. It's again a European-like dragon, and he can inflict bleeding. Again, you have ways to counter that, which is interesting. So some of his attacks has a chance to inflict bleeding, the bleeding status effect, which will drain your HP, will constantly drain your HP, and it will also drain a bunch of HP if you do actions like rolling. And the way of countering is to guard your weapon, to sheath your weapon, and to crouch, which is funny to see. You also can eat some types of fish, which will cease the bleeding effect. We have Spinas and Flaming Spinas, which, I don't know, it's just the standard European dragon again. But Spinas can have some paralysis attack. Well, he has paralysis attack, fire attack, and poison attack, which can be a little bit too much. But I don't know, I just never really enjoyed it. And Flaming Spinas again is just a variant, so F tier. Moving on, we have Gormagala, which can get into the C tier. Again, an Elder Dragon that the game does not do a proper job at explaining his story, but I got curious about it because on the Hunter Notes, which is kind of this book with with tips and info about the monsters. On his type is just 3 interrogation marks. It does not say it's an Elder Dragon because he's not yet an Elder Dragon. So they just have these interrogation marks that got me curious, so I went to search about the story and I like it. But the game does not make a good job at explaining that. I had to like go outside of it to properly learn about this monster. So yeah, he can get it, the city. And Chaotic Gormagala is the same thing. He can get into the city and Shagaru Magala also on the city. Because it's kind of the same monster, but on different stages. Garagon and Lunagaron, you can get into Citia because they are these really big and important monsters to the story, but again, they don't do a good job at explaining the importance of these monsters to the story. So yeah, I feel like I could enjoy them more if they had done a proper job at explaining those things, but yeah, since they didn't, just the city. Malzino, you can get it to see again. Malzino is the European dragon based on vampires. He will have the blood blight effect. That's his thing. And the blood blight, the way it happens is that when the monster attacks you, you get inflicted by blood blight, which will constantly drain your HP. And it will also have the half. It will cut in half the HP restoration you get from potions. So if you have blood blight, you drink a potion, you will recover, let's say, 50 HP instead of 100, because it will cut the effect, the restoration effect, in half. But there is a way of countering it, which is by hitting the monster. So you get blood blight, you rush towards the monster and you start playing more aggressively, because every time you hit the monster, part of the damage caused will come back to you as HP. So you hit the monster, you cause damage to it, and then part of the damage comes back to you as life. And I don't like that because, well, at first I didn't like it because it made the game too hard for me. Because I liked playing with caution. The monster will hit me, I would run to a safe place, or maybe I would blind the monster and I would use potions to recover HP. So I didn't like it because it changed the way I played the game. And this also goes to the anomaly monsters, because, well, the anomaly monsters are all of these monsters, but they can inflict blood blight. So yeah, I didn't like it because it made the game too hard. I had to play aggressively, and by going aggressive, I would die a lot. But then when I when I learned more about the game, it had the opposite effect. Instead of making the game too hard, it made the game too easy. Because like sometimes I would hope the monster to give me the blood blight, so I could restore my HP. Like, let's say I already took a damage and I'm like 25 HP short. I will not use potions, I will just pray for the next attack to give me blood blight, so I can restore my full health. And yeah, it made the game very easy. After, of course, I understood the monsters. So yeah, Primordial Malzino It's F. It's the worst of the worst. Um, I don't like him because the game does not do a proper job at explaining when I should be fighting Primordial. Because you end the story and you will unlock 3 different things to do. You will unlock urgent quests, which one of them is for Primordial Malzino. You will unlock anomaly quests and anomaly investigations. And I went to the urgent quests because the game does not tell us which of these 3 things we should do first: the urgent quests, the anomaly quests, or the anomaly investigations. And I went to the urgent quests because that's what I was familiar with. Because from the very beginning of the game, that's what you do to progress. So you start on the 1-star quests. You complete the 1-star quests, you unlock an urgent quest. You do the urgent quest, you go to the 2-star quests. You complete the 2-star quests, you unlock another urgent quest. You complete that, you go to the 3-star quests. And that's what you do until you finish the story. So now picture this. I finished the story and the game just throws 3 things at me: urgent quests, anomaly quests, and anomaly investigations. Out of those, I am only familiar with urgent quests. So I go and I do the urgent quests. And you can kind of brute force your way through the urgent quests, but the thing is that you shouldn't be doing those. You should do the anomaly quests and anomaly investigations, because those 2 things will make your gear get better. So you get weapons that deal more damage, and you will also have armor that can take more damage by doing the anomaly quests and investigations. And only then you should do the urgent quests. But the game does not explain that. So I went to the urgent quests and I brute forced my way until we got to Amatsu, which is this guy over here. You can get into this city here. On Amatsu, I tried to beat him by myself, which I couldn't do. So I just gave up and went to the multiplayer and hoped that someone could carry me through this monster, which is what happened. I joined a lobby with 3 other guys that carried me through the Amatsu quests. And then I got to Primordial Malzino, which I couldn't do by myself again. I joined a multiplayer lobby. We again couldn't finish the quest even on multiplayer. And then I just went back to solo, and it was like 2 days of me smashing my head against a wall, trying to beat this guy with normal gear, with gear that was not made better through the anomaly quests and anomaly investigations. So that's what made me hate this guy that much, because the game does not explain. And then, like, if you go to Reddit, you can find a bunch of posts, because people that started playing, well, the game was a live service game, so they released updates every month. But if you start playing the game now, it's finished. There is no more new content being added. So if you started playing the game now, you finish the story, the game will give you these 3 things: the urgent quests, anomaly quests, and anomaly investigations. And people go towards the urgent quests, because first is the thing they are familiarized with, and second, there is a pop-up in the game saying do the urgent quests. And it's like a pop-up that appears since the beginning of the game. You start the character and there will be a pop-up on the corner saying what you have to do to progress. So people get to this point and they look at that pop-up and they do the urgent quests. And then they go to Reddit to complain about it. Complain about Amatsu and Primordial Malzeno being too hard. And then you go to the replies and there is people explaining, oh no, it's that because you shouldn't be fighting those guys right now. You need to go to do the anomaly quests and investigations to get better gear, and then you come back to Primordial Malzeno. But since the game does not explain that, people starting now have that problem. But yeah, after a while, like after I understood that, because I thought Primordial Malzeno, thought it was too hard, and then I went to Anomaly Quest and thought it was too easy, like easier than Primordial Malzeno. So I went to Reddit and I figured out why. Like why Primordial Malzeno was harder than the Anomaly Quests, which is because you should do the Anomaly Quests first and then Primordial. And then I figured out the mistake I made, and well, I did the quests and the investigations, I got better gear, and I went back to Primordial and I completely destroyed him. But yeah, my first impression of the monster was not the greatest one. And that's why he's on F tier. Amatsu is kinda the same, but he's not that hard as Primordial, and also he's not a variant, so he can get into this C tier. And then I went back to him to fight him solo after getting proper gear and another monster that I could destroy. And now I am able to carry people through this. Like, I think I fought Primordial Malzeno 1 or 2 times by myself, and all the rest of the times I fought him was carrying someone. Like, someone just joined my lobby, asked if I could help them fight Primordial, and that's why I fought him that much times. Well, I believe it's 10 on my third character. So 10 times I fought him, 8 times were just to carry someone, because I don't really like him. Amatsu, that I already put him, can get into the C tier. He works in a similar way to Ibushi and Narua. It's like a kind of a Chinese dragon. He has some thunder attacks and wind attacks, and some interesting gimmicks on the arena where we fight him. So yeah, he can get into C tier. Geismagor can get into C. I can get it B tier. Geismagor is the true boss of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak DLC. So on the story we have the Kuryu, which is this parasite that is making the monsters go insane. We think the reason behind the Kuryu is on Malzeno, so we fight Malzeno. We realize he's not the main cause of the problem, and the main cause is actually Geismagor. And then we fight Geismagor. So standard Monster Hunter story. And Geismagor is this kind of demon-like monster, and I really enjoy fighting him. There is a bunch of cutscenes that add weight to this monster, which I really like. So like they didn't repeated the same mistakes they did with Ibushi and Narva. Here there is a bunch of cutscenes that shows the destructive power of Geismagor. So I like it. I like him because of that. And his fight is kind of interesting, because again there will be some gimmicky elements to it. I'm not really a big fan of gimmicks, but when you have like only when you have specific monsters for that, I kind of appreciate it. Moving on, we have Velcana, which can get into the E tier for the same reason as Kushala and Valstrax. They don't explain much of it. They just say, hey, there is this really powerful Elder Dragon, we need you to fight him. And that's all of it. I forgot to mention, but Valstrax also has another problem, which is the same as Anjanath. He has some blinding attacks that I don't like because of, as I said, sensibility to like some bright elements on the screen. So yeah, I believe that also helps to put Valstrax on the E tier. Kushala, on the other hand, is just shitty monster. I don't like him. And well, we have the last five, sorry, I don't know how to count, which are the Ryzen Elder Dragons. So Camilius, Kushala, Teostra, Ryzen Valstrax, and Ryzen Shaggy. They can get into the F tier too before Primordial Malzeno. Again, they are just variants, and I don't think they add much to the game. And in some instances, they make the monster even worse, like Kushala. Because Kushala, his Ryzen version has an attack that, well, you can block, but you will still receive a bunch of damage. Because in this game, blocking does not completely ignore damage. If you block an attack, you will still receive a little bit of damage. And Kushala, Ryzen Kushala, has one attack that, yes, you can block, but you will still receive huge amounts of damage. While to the other monsters, you can completely negate that if you have the correct skills, which is guard and guard up. Well, one of the two. I don't really, because one will reduce the knockback and the other will reduce the damage you take. So when you're fighting any other monster, you can just block them, their attacks, and you will receive no damage at all. But Ryzen Kushala has this problem. This one attack where he will cast a sphere on the ground, and the sphere will get bigger with time, and every time it gets bigger, you get damaged. And there is no way to deal with that outside of the Superman dive, which is when you shift your weapon, you run, and you press the dodge button, which makes your character jump into the ground, the way Hollywood likes to do when there is a grenade about to explode. So that's the Superman dive. Or you can just evade, but again, I mostly play Lance and Gun Lance, which cannot evade. So my only option is the Superman dive. So yeah, the Ryzen version for Kushala, it's just a variant, but it manages to make the monster be even worse than the base version. So yeah, that's it, right? Feel free to hate on me for my shitty taste on monsters, but yeah, I think I gave enough explanations for why I like some of them. And looking at it right now, I see that the common monsters are more on the top tiers. And I can also explain that, but I'll explain it through Payday 2. On Payday 2, Payday is a game about robbing banks. And you will have some really big banks and you have some smaller agencies. And in that game, I like doing the smaller jobs more than the big ones, outside of, well, one or two maps that I really enjoy. But in general, yeah, I like playing more the smaller heists because in my head it makes more sense because it's not every day that you will be robbing the national bank, right? So sure, you can plan the national bank uh, like once a decade, but for the day to day, to be able to buy the stuff you want to buy, you need to do smaller jobs. You need to rob smaller agencies. Um, you need to do this kind of stuff, you know. So that's the reason why on Payday 2 I play more the smaller jobs. And I think the same thing can be said um, to Monster Hunter. It's not every day that you will be fighting an Elder Dragon. It's not every day that you will be fighting major threats. On the day to day, you'll be fighting the greatest duchy that is just eating someone's crops. You're gonna fight the Tetranodon that just found his way into a shrine and is destroying everything. Um, so that's like the reason why I like the more common monsters. And like the elder dragons and the major threats are all on the bottom of the tier list. Um, so yeah, I think that's it, right? That's my tier list. A very different one. Also, I just remember, like if you go to Reddit or the Monster Hunter subreddit and you search for tier lists, it's just like the most basic ones. Like every tier list I look for Monster Hunter is just like, oh, Rathalos is S tier, Kazu is Kazu tier, right at the bottom, and then everyone loves Shagaru Magala because he's the school monster that was the major threat of the game most people started playing Monster Hunter with. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like most tier lists are just very generic and kind of the same taste. So, well, look at this. Look at this one as the as the one that is different, right? The tier list that does not follow the hive mind, if I can say that. Yeah, that's that's it. Also, maybe the multiplayer has some fault into it because when I played the multiplayer, it was mostly Elder Dragons. Like most people like the Elder Dragons. I'm on the minority here. I know that. So most people like the Elder Dragons, so they fight them more. And I used to do, when I play multiplayer, I used to do random quests. So I just click a button and say, hey, whatever, just give me a random quest to play. And most of the time I feel like I am sent to Elder Dragon quests. So maybe that has some fault into it. Like I just played so much Elder Dragon in the multiplayer that I stopped enjoying them. Because like Camellios and Teostra, I remember enjoying them more, and now it's just bottom tier. So yeah, that's the tier list. I still didn't figure out how to finish my videos, so I guess I'll just be talking at them at a random point. I'll just click